We got a fun video on tap for you guys today. But before we get into it, we got a bunch of trade targets that I'm going to be diving into. I got a lofty goal for us Vikings fans. Can we gain 50 new subs on today's video? I know there's going to be 50 of you guys that come across today's video. If you guys want to help out, help a true diehard Minnesota Vikings fan out like myself, go down there, hit that subscribe button. Any Vikings news, rumors that will be discussed during the offseason, we're going to have a video out for you guys almost every single day. We're closing in on 10,800 subs, and we're 50 away. I know there's 50 of you guys out there that aren't subscribed. It's easy. It's free. Just go down there and hit that subscribe button. But let's get into today's video. Welcome to the Vikings Now. I am your host, Patrick Seatman. And we got a fun video for you guys today. We got 5 trade targets that I'm going to be going over. I'm going to be kind of making my case on why the Vikings could be trading for them. A couple of these are pretty unrealistic, but they could happen. These are guys that are on the trade block for their teams, and the Vikings want to be aggressive and want to maybe take that next step and get into that Super Bowl contender category in the NFL. These are 5 names that I really think could get them there. Let's start off with the big dog down in Tampa Bay, Mike Evans. And I know Mike Evans, with the recent Tom Brady retiring, I think Tampa could be looking to ship off a lot of their big names. And could you imagine Mike Evans next to Justin Jefferson? I would love to see it. And this past season, Mike Evans, he started off slow, but in that last week, he had around 203 yards and 3 touchdowns. But overall for the year, he had 1,100 yards, 6 touchdowns, still a great deep threat with almost 15 yards per catch with 77 receptions on the year. If you look at this Vikings depth chart overall, you obviously have your wide receiver 1, Justin Jefferson, and then Adam Thielen. We'll get into him a little more later and whether he'll be on the team or he'll be on the Vikings in this next season. Then you got KJ Osborne. I think he's a very solid wide receiver 3. Then you got guys like BC Johnson, Jalen Reagor, Jalen Naylor, and then Tristan Jackson and Blake Prohl. But overall, I think my take on this, I think Jefferson needs help. And I think we saw that in the games the Vikings have lost this past season. You guys remember way back week 2 on that Monday night in Philly, Justin Jefferson, he got locked up, and no other receiver was able to really step up and kind of take some of the pressure off of Justin Jefferson. Remember that one week 4, I believe, against the Lions when the Vikings had a close game. They should have lost it. Jefferson struggled. And then in the wild card game against the New York Giants, Jefferson, only 7 receptions, 47 yards. He was getting a lot of double, a lot of bracket coverage throughout the entire game. I just think if you bring in a guy like Mike Evans, it would open up a lot for Justin Jefferson, and then he wouldn't have to been so much relied on to kind of be the full production from the wide receiver group. Now, I want to ask you guys this. Just to be honest with me, I'm going to make this the pinned comment on today's video. Do you want to trade for Mike Evans? If he's there, if you could throw him maybe a 2nd or a 3rd round pick, maybe one of the Vikings' 3rd is where I'm leaning right now. Would you want to trade for a guy like Mike Evans, type T for trade, type P for pass? Number 2 on this list, we're going to stick with receiver here for the next couple. DeAndre Hopkins. If you guys don't really know what's going on in Arizona, new GM, new head coach. They are going to be doing a clean sweep of that whole organization, and it doesn't really make sense for them to hold on to a guy like D-Hop. This past year, he was suspended for the first 6 games due to PEDs. He still had a very productive year, and when he was playing, he was still great. 64 receptions, 717 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 11.2 yards per catch. D-Hop still gets it done. Now, I want you guys just to imagine this. Close your eyes. You're waking up on a beautiful Sunday morning next season, and you get a roll out, Justin Jefferson, DeAndre Hopkins. It would be fantastic. I think it would probably be the best wide receiver duo in NFL history. And if you're an opposing defense, could you imagine? You're looking out there, and you see Jefferson, D-Hop, TJ Hawkinson, KJ Osborne. Man, it would be tough to guard. I think this is obviously a more outlandish one, a lot of more bold prediction here. But if the Vikings could trade for a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, could really take that offense to the next level. Number 3, we got to talk about the kid returning to Minnesota. We all saw the clip after the Bills' playoff loss to the Cincinnati Bengals. Stefon Diggs throwing his arms up at Josh Allen saying, "Get me the damn ball." Could he be on the trade block? Most likely not, but let's still talk about it. This past year, Stefon Diggs, he's fantastic. I mean, we know how good he was when he was with our Minnesota Vikings. 108 receptions, 1,400 yards, 11 touchdowns, and around 14 yards per catch. But I do think this is the tidbit here. It comes down to Adam Thielen. So Adam Thielen, I think, is one of the up there cut candidates for the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings, if they cut him pre-June 1st, it would be around $6.4 million. I don't think they're going to do that. But if you look at the post-June 1st cut, $13.5 million. I think if a trade for Stefon Diggs would happen, it would be during the summertime. Maybe the Vikings are trying to move off Thielen and they cut him. They open a lot more cap space, and maybe Diggs is still, unsatisfied in Buffalo, and hey, maybe he wants to return to Minnesota. This is an outlandish one. This is really a bold prediction for me. But bring back Stefon Diggs and Justin Jefferson, man, that would be a lot of fun. And I'm curious what you guys have to say about this. I want to kind of gauge the pulse of the fan base. Would you welcome back Diggs? If you got that notification, you pull out your phone and big breaking news, Vikings trade for Stefon Diggs. He returns to Minnesota. Would you be ecstatic? Would you welcome him back? Type Y for yes or type N for no. Let's hit the defensive side of the football here. Jalen Ramsey, the all-pro corner for the Los Angeles Rams. Past couple years, he has been one of the best corners in the league. This past year, took a little step back, but was still extremely, extremely productive and efficient at the cornerback position. Completion percentage when targeting him, 62.5. Only gave up 650 yards. He did give up 5 touchdowns this season with 4 interceptions and 18 pass breakups. Wasn't the top corner that he's been in the past years, but he's still in that top 5, top 10 range for sure. Take a look at the Vikings depth chart here. Those 2 top corners, both free agents, Patrick Peterson and Duke Shelley. I'm assuming Patrick Peterson will be gone. But Duke Shelley? I think Duke Shelley, we're going to re-sign him, bring him back. And then Cam Dantzler, he's getting locked in there at the cornerback 3 right now. I think that's kind of a one more prove-it-year type of deal for Cameron Dantzler. But if you had the chance to trade for Jalen Ramsey, the max I'm giving up is a second-round pick. I don't want to kind of break the bank and kind of consolidate all of our assets and go give up a first-round pick for a guy like Jalen Ramsey, especially when he's still got a pretty big cap hit. He's kind of exiting his prime, I would say. He's got maybe 1 or 2 really strong years, but if you could say Jalen Ramsey for a second, and you could pair him up with Duke Shelley, maybe you draft a corner, you get a guy like a Caleb Evans back, Andrew Booth coming back, I think you could really turn around this Vikings cornerback group that got gashed this entire season. Vikings were last in passing yards, second to last in total yards, just not overall good pass defense this past year. I would give up a second-round pick for Jalen Ramsey max. I do want to give a quick shout out to our sportsbook sponsor, BetUS, with the Super Bowl coming up in just about a week and a half now. Go over the chats or go to chatsports.com/bet. Promo code chat125, get 125% deposit bonus. Put 100 in, they'll give you 125 free to play with. And hey, looking at the Super Bowl odds right now, you got Hurts at plus 110, Mahomes at plus 130, and then the other 3, Kelsey, A.J. Brown, and Miles Sanders. I'm curious to where you guys would have to bet on one of these. I'm leaning Patrick Mahomes taking home that Super Bowl MVP, getting his second Super Bowl ring. You want to join me? You want to bet on that? Go to chatsports.com/bet. Use promo code chat125. Last name on this list, another former Viking returning to Minnesota, Cordarrelle Patterson. He was one of my favorite Vikings players of all time, and I kind of joke around. I call him the Deebo Samuel before Deebo Samuel. This past season, he was fantastic. He had around 210 carries for 695 yards with a 4.8 yards per carry, giving around 8 touchdowns. And a big reason why I think Cordarrelle Patterson could be a trade target for the Minnesota Vikings is because of Dalvin Cook. Listen, if you guys have heard my take on Dalvin Cook on this channel before, you know I'm not the biggest fan of him. And I think the Vikings are really going to consider cutting him and especially consider restructuring him. Look at the numbers here. The Vikings would save $7.8 million if they cut him pre-June 1st, and they would save $11 million if they cut him post-June 1st. I think Dalvin Cook, he's still a solid running back in the NFL. Is he a top 10 back anymore? I don't think so. And if that cap hit is in that top 10 running back range in the NFL, I just think you need to move off him. I think it's just a thing. You got to rip the Band-Aid off. He's a great locker room guy. He's an awesome guy to kind of have in your locker room. He's a big camaraderie guy. I know the guys love him a lot, but I think if you could bring in Cordarrelle Patterson, kind of be that placeholder maybe for a year or two, where you still have a guy like Ty Chandler. I expect Alexander Madison to be leaving this roster, leaving the Vikings in the offseason too. Dalvin Cook, I think he's going to be up there with Adam Thielen as a huge cut candidate. And overall, the Vikings have a lot of big names as cut candidates with Thielen, Dalvin Cook, Harrison Smith, even Eric Kendricks. It's going to be a lot going on. But overall, here are my 5 trade targets that I think the Vikings could be trading for during the NFL offseason. These are a lot of bold names. I wanted to get bold with this list. Mike Evans, could with Tom Brady retiring, could Tampa be looking to have a fire sale? DeAndre Hopkins, with what's going on in Arizona, losing the coach, losing the GM, could he be on the trade block? And could the Vikings be thinking man, go get a guy like D-Hop, pair him up with Jefferson. This would be the best wide receiver duo we've seen since Moss and Chris Carter back in the 90s. And then Stefon Diggs, could he be returning to the Vikes? Most likely not. This was kind of a fun one I wanted to throw in there. But with the beef going on with him and Josh Allen, who really knows? Jalen Ramsey, he's I guess a more realistic option on this list. I think he could be on the trade block for the LA Rams, especially who knows, Sean McVay could retire, go to Amazon. There's been rumors about that thrown around. And obviously, who we just mentioned, Cordarrelle Patterson, be the kind of placeholder for Ty Chandler. Maybe the Vikings draft the running back. Who knows? But guys, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. We're going to keep you up to date with all Vikings news, rumors, whatever it may be throughout this whole NFL offseason. Really helps me out. Really helps me show it to my boss and be like, hey, you want more Vikings videos? Hit that subscribe button. I can show them the analytics. I can push that across to them and show them the numbers. If you guys haven't already, I'm talking about the Vikings all off season. Pat Seatman NFL. Just go right there, plug that into Twitter, give me a follow, and send me a DM. Send me a DM saying trade targets, and I'll give you a follow back so I know you're from today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Tune in next time. As always, Skol Vikes.